Quincy Wilson really set the world ablaze. He's coming down a home stretch for Bryce Deadman. We'll see if he can hold him off.
Wilson and Deadman digging for the line. The 17-year-old Quincy Wilson holds Deadman off, and Quincy Wilson the win in 44-14 unofficially.
This is Quincy Wilson. He is only 17 years old, and what he just did in the 400 meters really shouldn't be possible. At the 2025 Ed Murphy Classic, Wilson was set to race in the 400 meters against a world-class field. And when I say world-class, I mean just that, as he was competing against the 2021 Olympic champion, he was competing against an NCAA champion, and he was also competing against a man who had been a part of the 4x400 meter relay teams in the past 2 Olympic Games, and for each 2 of these relays, that team went on to win the gold medal. Just getting into a race like this as a high schooler is already a pretty big deal, but winning such a race at 17 years old, well, that was almost mythical. This kind of thing just never, ever happens. Well, that is unless your name is Quincy Wilson, because with a time of 44.10 seconds, Wilson just unleashed one of the greatest world records that you are likely to see in 2025. And the more we break down this world record and what it truly means, the more that I realized that Wilson might be the next great one in track and field. Here's the current top 10 all-time list of the men's U18 400-meter performances. As you can see, Quincy has already put his name as the greatest of all time in this specific category. And atop this list of 400 races is his recent 44.10 performance. This one time currently places Wilson at number 4 in the world this year over the 1-lap distance, tying him to the 100th of a second with Matthew Hudson Smith from Great Britain. You know, the man who won the 400-meter Olympic silver in last year's Olympic Games. And yet, this 17-year-old is right next to this world-class athlete. At 44.1, Wilson's overall performance earned him a score of 1,243 points, and this score comes from the World Athletics scoring table, and this kind of performance often earns you a global medal on the big stage. But just how good of a performance was this actually, and how does it compare with other previous records in the U18 division? Well, let's take a look. Here are the full list of U18 world records in track on the men's side. And for this chart, we're using the events from the 60-meter dash all the way up to the 10,000. Now, some of these performances are quite memorable. There's the incredible 12:54 5,000 from Abraham Chirkos when he was just 17. There's the 3:33 1,500 from Cam Myers back in 2023. And there's the insane 19:84 200 from Ariane Knighton back in 2021. And this time was actually fast enough to make the Olympics for the United States. A pretty remarkable accomplishment for a 17-year-old. This list represents the best of the best when it comes to U18 performances. But where does Wilson's 44.1 stack up against the world's best? Well, it currently ranks as the second highest scoring U18 world record in history, just barely behind Ariane Knighton's 200 record from 2021. To get a little more detailed with this overall score here, this score of 1,243 in the 400 is the equivalent to a 100 time of 9.89. It equates to an 800 performance of 142.76, and it also equates to a 1-mile effort of 346.81. And remember, Wilson achieved this at 17 years old. This kid is only a high school junior. This is just not normal. It is not an exaggeration to say that Quincy is one of the greatest teenage talents that the world has ever seen. And for one extra digestible comparison, Quincy's U18 record places him at a sizable distance in front of Gout's 200-meter PB, and they both ran these times at 17 years old. The future is undeniably bright for Quincy Wilson right now in the 400 meters, and this 1-lap distance is proving more and more to be the event for this young superstar. But as far as 2025 is concerned, what are the odds that Quincy actually has what it takes to qualify for the World Championship team moving into Tokyo, Japan? And can this 17-year-old battle against the world's best and qualify through the US Nationals and make it onto the podium? Well, possibly. If you're looking to qualify for the World Champs in a sprinting event in the US, it is no exaggeration to say that you need to be one of the world's best in your event to even make it through. But remember that he is currently ranked number 4 in the world right now, so yeah, he is definitely reaching that level. Now, if we go to last year's Olympic trials, the 16-year-old Wilson ran remarkably well, breaking his own world U18 record twice in the qualification rounds. But ultimately, he only finished in 6th place come the final, missing the top 3 placement by about half of a second, as the 3rd place qualification spot went to Chris Bailey at 44.42. But, as you can see, this 44.42 is quite the distance behind 44.1. So if Quincy can simply run through the rounds responsibly and not blow up in the final, I think it's very possible that he very well could make the World Championship team this season. However, he will certainly have some company along the way. In this year's 400 meters, Wilson will be competing with Caleb McRae, Ja'Cory Patterson, Chris Robinson, Chris Bailey, and he will also be competing against last year's Olympic champ, Quincy Hall. Given the insane quality of this year's 400-meter athletes and the experience that they will bring to the table, making it into the top 3 will be a very big challenge. But in looking back at Wilson's 2024 Olympic trials, something sticks out that might actually make all of the difference in the world. For Wilson's opening heat, he actually ran the single fastest time out of anyone in the field in any heat. And this was actually yet another World Youth record. And then come the semis, Wilson ran another super quick time to make it to the final. These 2 opening races were slightly faster than he needed to go, especially in the opening 400 round. And some would argue that this left him with next to no gas left in his tank come the final, as his final 400 was significantly slower than his opening 2 races. Timing your rounds correctly and conserving your energy can be a massive challenge, and for Wilson, who was only 16 at the time, this inexperience, unfortunately, cost him a possible spot in the Olympics. I mean, yes, he did run in the opening round of the 4x4 relay, but I'm talking specifically about an individual spot on the 400 team. Now that 1 entire year has passed, and Wilson has clearly gotten faster and more mature, it really does seem like he might be ready to put forth something amazing come the national championships and potentially make it onto this world team. And also, this post-race interview from the Ed Murphy Classic speaks for itself on Wilson's confidence right now.
Insane run. You got out like your feet were on fire. What was your race strategy coming into today?
I mean, if you go see my races before, I haven't been getting out. My coach been telling me, stay on our process, do what we got to do. And I went out there and shot out like a bullet.
You absolutely did.
And now I will pass this final question off to all of you. Do you think the 17-year-old Wilson is ready to qualify onto the World Championship team? And also, what time do you think will be required to make it into the top 3 come this year's US Nationals in the 400 meters? Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, until next time.